Hey, what's up, you guys? IFBB Pro Huffy James here, and in this video, we're going to talk about exercises I think we should retire, and then I'll give you some that could replace them. So the exercise we're going to talk about today are bend over laterals. Now, this has been popular for a long time. It's something that most people do to kind of hit their rare delts, maybe their traps. Sometimes people don't even know what muscle they're trying to work. But I think one of the big issues with me with this particular workout, first and foremost, mindset, something I like to talk about when it comes to nutrition and training. The mindset people have of why they do them is always that Arnold defense, or well, Arnold did it, or since Arnold and Ronnie might have done it back in the day, for some reason it just becomes a golden staple that should not be changed a touch. And I think we as humans work better because once we get new information, we change and adapt to that new information. Yes, they might have done it, but you're comparing yourself to someone who is genetically gifted, enhanced, and was the exception, not the rule. If the average person did what they did, they're not going to become multiple time Olympians. They're going to end up hurting themselves. So when it comes to your show today and you're doing these bend over laterals, I have a problem with the mechanics as well. When I'm seeing it being done, the person's spine is being put in a spinal flexion, and then they're asked to put load and putting weights on top of that. I'm not a fan of deliberately putting your spine in spinal flexion because you're asking it to do a lot more work. And one of the things I know from what I do is that a lot of people overuse their lower back, which is what causes injuries over time. I think the foundation of training should always be thinking of what are you doing with your core and posture. Nothing's wrong with working your lower back, but just purposely bending over, then adding weight. And then sometimes if the person's not doing effectively, starting to swing, I see them all the time where they're getting up. They're not holding their rear delts, they're holding their lower back. So I'm not a fan of ever putting someone in a state where they're going to be hunched over for a long duration and they've got weights in their hands and you're asking them to execute a movement when I know the priority should be to try and hit the rear delts, not to try and activate their lower back. And then as I stated before, when I'm seeing it being done, then they start to swing. So now you're just asking your spine to do more work and you're not asking your delts to do any extra work. It's doing less work. So for that reason, it's a movement I generally would not recommend. I definitely don't have any of my clients doing. I want to make sure any movement I give them, they can think of their core and posture and do things to make sure they're protecting their lower back, not putting it in a state where they can actually hurt themselves. The other reason I don't like it is why I don't like most lateral dumbbell movements. There's no tension on the bottom. So if you understand moment arms, where that line of force is, where you have your arms straight down, you're going to have a very short movement arm. And movement arms are just used to show you how much load you're actually putting on the muscle. Using dumbbells, your arms straight down, which is where most people stay and start, there's no tension there. The movement arm is going to be very, very small. And then when I see it being done, people usually just focus on just swinging on the bottom. You're moving your arms, but you're not putting any tension in the muscle you're trying to work. It's only when you get to about this position where you actually would start putting tension on the muscle you're trying to work, and then you've already reached the top. And the top is generally where you're going to be weakest. You want to try and always, if you're trying to think strength, growing the muscle, you want to make sure you're working the muscle in that lengthen range as well, lengthen to mid range. But when you're doing these dumbbell laterals, there's nothing going on down there. And many of the times I see them being done, that's where they're focusing. They're focusing on just swinging on the bottom. Unfortunately, the opposite is true, where I see sometimes they'll just throw their arms up and they're not thinking, again, I don't know if they're trying to work their rear delts or their traps, but they're just kind of throwing their arms up and they're over activating their traps. Now, if this is a trap exercise, great. People either don't know the muscle they're working or they're just thinking just movement, trying to get from point A to point B, something we talk about a lot. And they're just thinking, well, I just got to get this weight up, and they end up using those traps and they're not working their rear delts. Fixes that I would do. If you are hell bent on doing a dumbbell lateral raise, I would say do it on a bench where you can put your chest on the bench. You can still keep your arms straight, and then you can keep your spine in a neutral position so you're protecting your back. You can still go through the same range of motion, the same movement pattern, but now you're able to think core and posture. And again, you're just taking that tension off your back and you're keeping that spine in a better upright position. So when you do go through the movement, you're not overusing your back. You're not going to be overusing your upper traps. Now, you're still not going to get any tension on that bottom range. If you have a partner, maybe they can put some tension on that bottom range as you're going down, if you're just thinking how to make this more effective. But maybe this is just a finisher move for you. This would be a much safer way for your spine to go through your dumbbell bent over laterals and make sure you're not engaging other unnecessary muscles. So me personally, if I'm trying to work someone's rear delts, I would say the face pulls is a great option. We do have a video here kind of showing you how I would do a face pull. So if you want to see more detail, check that out. The face pulls, you're on a cable. You can be seated or standing, depending if you want to just work maybe some more core, if you want to do it standing. Seated, if you just want to focus on pulling back and using those rear delts. My personal favorite is using the cable, and I like to do it one arm at a time so I can really focus on my rear delt and do my one arm reverse cable flies. That way I can keep tension, and I can keep tension even in that lengthened range where my arm's straight. Whereas if I was using the dumbbells, there'll be absolutely no tension on my muscle. I can keep tension in that lengthened range and go as far out as I can, squeeze the rear delt, and keep that tension in the shortened range as well. And I can stay upright. I don't need to be bent over to do it. So I'm, again, protecting my lower back because I can think about my core and posture, keeping that neutral spine, and execute the movement better. Now, if you want a deeper breakdown on how I do my cable, let me know in the comment section below, and I can do that for you. So these are just some of the reasons why I think this exercise should be retired and the replacements I would give them. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have any questions, comments, please leave them down below, and I'll see you guys on the next video.